So I'm just gonna. Okay. Well, welcome everyone to our Welcome Week session. You all are participating in the first session of this year's Welcome Week, and we're excited to have you. We have 2 more days coming up, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later in our presentation. But just thank you for joining us this evening for this session. And so I'd like to start any sort of engagement opportunities that we have as members with our community agreement that was drafted during our SCRA biennium 2021. And as a community, we value and respect all members and commit to working together to ensure all members have equitable access to participating in dialogue. And as a community, we value diversity, equity, inclusion, and commit to working together to ensure that our spaces of dialogue and learning are inclusive, anti-oppressive, and anti-racist. As a community, we acknowledge and value the importance of reflexivity and critical reflection in scholarship and practice, and commit to working together to promote anti-oppressive, anti-racist norms. And so today, our topics of discussion include our presidential welcome from our current president, Kwesi Brookins. And I'm going to do some SCRA overview things, some things you may not have known, some things might be reviews, some things that'll maybe just make your heart smile. And we'll be closing with some of the happenings going on at SCRA. And there's been a lot going on that you may or may not have known about. And now I will pass it on over.
Welcome. Good to see you all. Thank you all for joining us. I am Kwesi Brookins. Pronouns are he and CC, which means we. And I'm a firm believer in the collective nature of who I am, as well as what we do. And certainly that is embedded in who we say we are and who we are for the Society for Community Research and Action, lovingly known as SCRA. So I'm glad to be here. I'm glad you all are here. And I have a question, Amber. Is there a place later in this where we will have introductions of people?
I was going to do that during the dialogue section.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm welcoming you, and as Amber did with kind of the you know, how we engage. Also want to just remind people that we always like to, what we have found, at least what I have found over these last year and a half or more of me in the presidential stream, is it is helpful to put in front of ourselves what the organization is about. And so our mission, SCRA, is an organization devoted to advancing theory, research, and social actions. Members are committed to promoting health and empowerment and to preventing problems in communities, groups, and individuals. And we serve many different disciplines that focus on community research and action. And the principles are aligned with what we do both in academic spaces as well as practice spaces, and how we do our work and how we accomplish that mission. So I won't read through these, and I believe the presentation will be available. And of course, all of this is on our spanking brand new website that I'm sure that Amber will certainly tell you about more than once. And hopefully, if you have not already seen it, you'll get to see it soon. Next slide. I think I'm up next. Am I next also? Maybe. Okay. I'm always tickled to think about this idea of vision. I think that from an organizational perspective, as well as from a leadership perspective, that the presidential vision is really the collective vision, and how do we move that collective vision forward. So in my presidential address, which you will get posted in a few places soon, part of it was reflective of our the theme from our recent biennial conference about dreaming community psychology forward. And so a lot of what I envision is how we move the project and the mission of community psychology forward in ways that are reflective of both the existing membership as well as the newer folks that we have coming into the organization. We have become very much a diverse organization over the past few years, and that includes both diversity in terms of the American diversity as well as international diversity, as well as, I believe, disciplinary diversity. So what that means for us as an organization is really what I envision helping us do. And we will have a strong global impact on enhancing well-being and promoting social justice for all people. And we do that by collaborating where there's division and empowerment where there is oppression. So when I think of a vision for leadership, it is a collective vision. Next. And my goals are related to this, and you'll hear more details about this later. As a president who has only 1 year in that role, I want to be ambitious, but not overloaded. And most of what you will see here is already happening. It extends from activity that we began some time ago or over these last couple of years, and will continue into the future. So for me, we need a complete strategic planning process that we have begun. I hope we get to complete it, at least in actionable form, by the end of my tenure next August. There's a lot of opportunity, I think, for building interdivisional and interorganizational collaborations, strategic kind of collaborations. And interdivisional, I mean, and within the association, American Psychological Association, as well as other organizations outside of the American Psychological Association, where I think we have some opportunity to collaborate. Enhance global engagement. We've always had people who are globally engaged and international members, but I think we can do a better job of structuring that into the organization and continue to inspire our membership participation. I'm really interested in kind of developing not only leadership opportunities, but perhaps even kind of leadership orientation and trainings where we can help build up the next cohort of leaders for the organization. Oh, this is me too, huh? And we'll be doing this throughout this presentation, but throughout this session. We just ask that members, we are a volunteer member organization. And so we do know that talent and time is a precious thing that each of us has. And where we spend it is something that, we think hard about, each and every one of us. And so when we ask you to share your talent and time, as well as your voice, we are serious and we want to be responsive to them. So that's my ask, that you share your voice, regardless of whether or not your talent and time follows from it, because the voice matters. And particularly as we continue through the strategic planning and what the organization will look like into the future and how we project into the future and dream into the future, is going to be important that we hear from everybody and people not be afraid to do that. And then participate, we ask, right? Because we ask a lot of things for folks, and the least of which we ask is that people give us feedback on the thing that the officers are doing, that those who have stepped up into our committees and councils and doing the work, particularly the strategic work, that you respond. We know we don't want to take too much time away from folks, but it's important that membership, we hear from them. And I think that's turn it back over to you, Amber.
All right. And so I want to just take some time to sort of just give the lay of the land of SCRA right now, because one of the things that came apparent when I came into this role was that people just weren't sure what was going on and what was what. And so really wanted to create more spaces like this and doing this annually as a welcome, as an update, as a time for connection. And so I wanted to sort of first start with the three faces of SCRA and how this came about. And so this past midwinter meeting, um, the executive committee of SCRA had a consultant help with facilitation of that meeting. And that consultant, Megan Renner, helped to sort of make sense of what exactly is going on right now when it comes to who we are and what we do. And so with the support of the EC and with her skills and expertise, we're able to map out the following in terms of looking at us as an organization. And so having these three big buckets of us, we're a member society. We're membership driven. We're a volunteer organization consisting of individuals who in some form either identify as a community psychologist or engaging in community psychology related work or align in with the values of our field or with the guiding principles of our field, and really sort of coming into the space with the intention of growing within their field. And varies on where people are in their field. When we think about sort of our membership makeup and looking at, okay, we're students, we're early careers, we have lifetime members, we have international members, like we have this nice bucket of members within our society. And as a field building network, we are a group of community psychologists and community psychology programs, and really trying to support groups and collaborate to advance the field. And lastly, the social justice nonprofit component is something in terms of when we look at the work that we do as a field and as members do. And how that's done when we're looking at interest groups and our councils and our committees with this intentional focus on advancing for social change. And it also includes not just our membership-based organizations and committees, but our communities and policymakers and institutions, how we get that to the broader scope. And so when you see outside on the sort of outside of these lovely circles, looking at when we look at the blue in terms of the different committees and opportunities that we have available and how people can engage in those. So for example, our new Spiffy website, that was a collaborative effort. There was a volunteer website committee who took the time to assist with reviewing proposals and helping to map out this new website. And it was not a one-person effort. And that just shows how, as a society, we can come together and achieve a goal, and the goal being the new website, and everyone's voices were able to shine in that. When we look at our executive committee and how we also, from that, we have finance and looking at nominations, and government is one piece that we are sort of working on as a society. We look at from our field building network, all of our councils, so our practice, our research, our council on education, our public policy. And then these overlaps are really just reflections of the different initiatives that people engage in within our society, and in many cases even collaborate. So for example, we look at the biennial and looked at some of the proposals and even pre-conferences, how those were collaborations across various groups within our society. We also continue to try to do that and get to the point of more international representation. Also additional looking at collaborations and signing off on different things from a social justice and policy. And so I know at first glance, this may look a little messy, but this is where we are. And this is where we are. This is what this looks like as it stands. And so now we have to sort of have a better understanding of this, but also try to figure out where we want to go. And so before we can get to where we want to go, let's look at what we have as memberships as of July 30th. And so we have 1,202 members, which include US and international. The following is just a breakdown of each of the types of groups that we have, from the number and also the price. And one thing for membership, one thing to note is that our price has stayed the same for membership fees for quite some time. And we have an array of members from US to student to undergrad, international, early career, our senior members. Also, new graduate gifts is an opportunity, and lifetime membership. And when you renew your membership, you also can contribute to various funds, whether it's our DEIA work, or if you're wanting to contribute to the biennial to help with scholarship funds for students. We were able to provide more scholarships than we ever have been able to, and that was largely contributed to just the commitments of members to want to support our students in attending the biennial. One of the things that, if you have had the opportunity to peruse our lovely policy and procedure manual, which pretty much gives us guidance and framework on how we do the things that we do. And so wanted to just take the time to just sort of say some of the standing committees that we have. You may have noticed that there's a lot of different other committees listed, but these are the ones that have had some engagement and movement. So we have our fellows committee that we have our SCRA fellows, and that is an annual process that's taking place, and you'll have some more updates about that within the next month or so of what that process is going to be and deadline. We have our finance committee that looks at those numbers and tries to make sure that we are fiscally responsible. We have our nominations committee, which is responsible for helping to get leadership in place. As I mentioned, we're a volunteer-led organization. We can't do this without you. And so we have a committee that is intentionally trying to get diverse membership engaged in our vacancies that we have. So for example, every year there is always a presidential-elect opening. And so really just want to put that nugget out there just to encourage those that might be considering. And also member at large is another one that is a consistent. And every year we'll have some additional roles too, but just to encourage people to be willing to share your gifts. They're welcome in this space, and we'd love to have you. Our international committee recently got recharged at the biennial, and a lot of interest groups and councils and committees have done the same. And so excited to see that going. And our publications oversees the various outlets that we have for dissemination of the work that is done. So the following, wanted to highlight some new committees, and these new committees came out of that bubbly mess that I showed you. And the goal of these committees within the executive committee is to really sort of address some of the things that have come up over the years. We're at this exciting place as a society where we get to try some innovation, we get to pivot, we get to explore, we get to really be open to the possibility. And so with each of the committee, we have either chairs or co-chairs, and you're welcome to, I put the leadership names, and you can find this on our website as well. But if you're interested in connecting with any more of these new committees that came out of the midwinter meeting, and so looking at assessment planning and organization ARAO work is led by Quasi Brookins, and get to understand, okay, as an organization, what does that really look like if we're going to be anti-racist and anti-oppressive, and what should those strategies be, and how should we embed this into our organization? Looking at collaboration with a wider field. As a society, there are other organizations that share in our interests and our passion and our alignments that we should definitely consider working with. But what does that look like? How do we move beyond that? And then we have a committee that's exploring that. When we look at our governance and our bylaws and our policy and procedure, it's just time to review. It's time to really look at sort of, okay, or should our best practices be? How should we maybe pivot some things? How can we make this language clear? How do we embody the values that we have in the field and our work in ARAO, how should all of that manifest itself when we're looking at our policy and procedure? In our governance structure, one thing you may have noticed, we have a lot of members on our executive committee. Is that what the society needs? Is the format that we have, is that allowing for us to achieve our organizational vision once we are able to clearly articulate that? And so we have a committee that is looking at that and exploring which format do we need in order to sustain and also be able to achieve our goals. We have our healing group, which is working on looking at within our leadership, within our membership, and acknowledging that there are spaces that harm has happened, and how do we get to a place as a field that focuses on prevention, from not only preventing from reoccurrence, but healing if those do. And so that is a process that our executive committee has begun to embark upon in terms of trying to figure out what this structure needs to be within our organization. You may have seen, hopefully, you saw the promotions for your feedback for our identity statement draft. And so there is a committee that is working on that and revising that and taking the feedback that was received and seeing if we need to pivot. And all of these things are part of our strategic planning work. And so one thing I wanted to also share is which councils and interest groups are active. So they've done something within the last year, or they may have gotten recharged at the biennial, because a lot of these groups are wanting more engagement and participation from members. And so I think it's important to highlight that we have a lot going on that you may be able to connect with. And so our councils, our Council on Education, our Council on Cultural, Ethnic, and Racial Affairs, SCRA, our practice, our public policy, and our research are all councils that you can be involved with. Our councils and interest groups and committees, the main distinguishing factor is that councils have a representative on the executive committee. And our interest group, and I wanted to highlight the ones that are on our new website and also some that are coming because they've been recharged. And so you have our community psychology practice in undergraduate settings, criminal justice, critical community psych, early career, environment and justice, immigrant justice, rural school engagement, U.S. reparations. And you'll soon find our indigenous and our community health added as well. And just seeing this spectrum, there's so many interests that members have, and these are driven by member interests. So any interest group or council, if there's a topic that you would like to see and want some support in getting started, just let me know and I can support you in that. But if you see that there's also a topic that you haven't been engaged with, definitely encourage you to make those connections. And here are some additional interest groups, and I highlight these because these have been standing, but they have not gotten movement. I also want to acknowledge that, for example, our LGBT, that wording is because in order to change the name of an interest group has to vote for that. And so if any of these interest groups that haven't been active, you're like, that's my interest, I want to try to revitalize that, definitely connect with me and happy to provide that support. All right, so what's happening? We've talked a little bit about some things, but let's dive into some more. So SCRA Welcome Week. So you are on the first evening of SCRA Welcome. And tomorrow you get to learn about SCRA finances from our treasurer, Chris Nettles. And our last session will focus on Get Connected. And what that means is we're going to have representatives from our interest groups, our councils and committees that can highlight what's going on in their groups and encourage you to get more connected with any of those. So as I mentioned, our SCRA strategic plan is going and underway. And if you're interested in participating, you can reach out to myself or Yvette Flores, who is leading this as well. And this is a cool time to be a part of it. Our strategic plan, our last one, and we're due. We're due. And as Kwesi kindly mentioned, is that trying to get that done would like to see that done during his presidency, and that can't happen without membership support. And there's going to be moments during this process where you may see things coming out that require some feedback from you all, and just really encouraging you to just share. We're trying to explore different ways of data collection, because we know that, sometimes surveys are not always the best, and also open to having one-on-one conversations, whatever we need to do to make sure that that we can make progress towards completion of our strategic plan, and then getting to the point where we're able to implement initiatives surrounding that as an organization. The following is our draft identity statement that we request member feedback, and you will receive communication later about what and if this is pivoted any or how, based off of membership feedback. But the draft statement from the committee and also the strategic planning committee prior to getting feedback from everyone was: the Society for Community Research and Action, the leading professional organization in the field of community psychology, is a social justice member-based multidisciplinary research and practice division within APA, the American Psychological Association. Using participatory processes, we partner with communities to advance liberatory practices via anti-racist and anti-oppressive action, practice, education, theory, and research. And so when we share the updates of the direction next of this statement, we really encourage you to participate in that. So here's some things that are coming up that you should just be on the lookout for. And so what I mean by that is, if you're not signed up for the listserv, to be signed up, as well as visiting our website. And if you're a member, you will receive notifications on some of the things. And so I just want to highlight our SCRA fellows that'll be opening. And so be on the lookout for when those dates are, that process, as well as the dates for support sessions to help with completion of the application. You guys want to make sure that those that are interested in applying have the support that they need. I mentioned the nominations committee, and so that typically consists of representation from the various interest groups, councils, and committees. And you'll receive some notifications about when that's going to be opening up, and for the roles that we're trying to fill. Okay. It's important that every year when we put out these roles that we're able to fill all of them, because one of the challenges that we have had as an organization is that hasn't happened. And when we have vacancies in roles, we have to pivot in making sure that certain things get taken care of, because each role plays a vital part of allowing us to do what we do, and each role is connected to something. And so we know life happens, and sometimes we just aren't able to fill those vacancies, but we really want to try our best to do that every year, to make sure that we're able to continue to do these things. The awards, you'll see some notifications about which awards are up for submissions and those deadlines. We just did APA 2023, so that means the call for APA 2024 is not far behind. And so when you see that call, I'll encourage you to submit, or even just helping to review the proposals. Whenever we have these conferences like the biennial or APA, one of the things that helps to sort of move things forward with finalizing the programming is to get that support from people reviewing the proposals. And finally, our interest groups, our councils, our committees are all doing programming. And so a lot of them promote that to their group and also on the listserv. And you'll also see updates in our new monthly newsletter. And so what that is that highlights the different interest groups, councils, committees, everything that's happening, to try to put it in a place to encourage involvement and to just keep people in the know of what's going on. So Practice Council has a mini grant deadline that is coming up. And so I encourage you to check it out if you haven't. It's on our website and due August 30th at 5 p.m. Eastern. We also have another conference that is coming up is the International Community Psychology Conference. It's the 10th one, and it will be next year, September, in Uruguay. And so when they have the call, just really encourage members to participate, attend, and continue these collaborations. And now we will stop the recording and do some introductions, and also just have some time to reflect, comment on today's session. And so if you are watching this session, thank you for joining and watching, and reach out if you have any questions or comments.